My name is Robert Frazier, and I'm a member of the Faunce Community Association. I was born and raised here in Winter Haven. I've been here all my life, so I have great ties to the city of Winter Haven. The cemetery, according to the records, the first cemetery was at the 1700 block of First Street, and that cemetery was located in, which is now First Missionary Baptist parking lot. And the bodies from that cemetery was moved to this cemetery. Miss Mary Jewett, they found the Lake Maude Addition Cemetery in 1923. And then they formed the Lake Maude Cemetery was within that subdivision. The bodies were moved from the 1700 block. I'm trying to locate the exact time, but to this cemetery, the Lake Maude Cemetery. I've been working on the Lake Maude Cemetery information since 2018, and I felt compelled to do so because my grandmother, whose name is Addie Frazier, is buried somewhere in this area. There's no marker for it, so I just felt that there was a need to find her if I could. And so I asked the Flaunceville Community Association if they would partner with me to help beautify this cemetery and make it a cemetery where the citizens of Flaunceville area and the citizens of Winter Haven will come out and be proud of the cemetery. I'm happy to say that things are going great, and we've had a scan of the cemetery, and we're looking to do great things with this cemetery. I have my uncle, who is the last living relative on my dad's side. I asked him, I said, do you know where your mother's buried? He said, yeah. So I left and I said, go out and find her. And he came to the exact same spot. So we do know that she is here. And so we're going to do everything that we can to identify bodies that are buried here. And so we can put some kind of marker to let people know that there is someone in this particular area. FPAN is going to come out, and what they do is come out and detect where bodies are in areas. And of course, you can use the probe where you can go down so far and hit concrete and assume that there's a body. But the scan will determine where there are potential bodies in the cemetery. And we had IDEX to come out, and of course we found out that there may be potential bodies buried on the outer perimeters of this cemetery. So we're going to do all that we can do to locate those, and kind of, if we have to move the fence back, or ask the residents if they would be willing for us to do that, and make this identity possible. That there are some great patriots that are buried here. There are war heroes that are buried here, and that those that are buried here should not be forgotten. They are somebody's mom, dad, uncle, grandmother, and they are important in our lives. And the older I get, the more I realize how important family is, and to leave the legacy for my children and their children to go back and can see where their ancestors are and where they came from. When I received the records from this cemetery, I received them in plastic bags. And so what I did, because some of the records the paper was so thin that if you touched them, they would tear. So what I did is I went and bought the sheet protectors, and I organized every one of those records as best as I could. I have about 4 books of records, I have records where Miss Mary Jewett signed off on the people who purchased plots in this cemetery. At that time, the plots were $5. So you can't find a $5 plot these days, but they were $5, $10, and so I have those records. Those records were scanned. So once we complete this process, we are planning to have those records housed at the Winter Haven Library, hopefully at the complex that we're building here, and also at the University of South Florida, so people can pull those records up and see. We've been trying to find when the bodies were moved. Of course, back then everything was paper, so trying to find that has been difficult, but we're not going to give up. We're going to find those records, find that information. We haven't done anything yet. We've got the ones that have been identified through Lake Maude Cemetery online records, but we're going to, through this process, we're going to ask the citizens of Lake Maude or Winter Haven if they have someone buried in this area, because we've had a few people come out and say, no, my grandmother is buried here. And so we're going to have them come out to identify as many as we can. And we're going to place the markers where, I guess, especially when they're identified by the F-pen scan, and put their name on there. And we hope to make the record a little clearer. We figure this is going to be a 3 to 5 year plan. We're seeking grants, state grants, that will help us facilitate this. And again, in the end, it's going to be community involvement. And we thank the city of Winter Haven for their partnership with us in this effort. So that's our plan. I'd like people to know that Lake Maude Cemetery exists. And again, we're going to make it a cemetery that Winter Haven and the citizens of Winter Haven will be proud of, just like every other cemetery. It is a Black cemetery, and we want it to represent us, and we want to beautify it. That's what we are planning to do.